when he had a couple of games in the UK Premiership back in the day. And now I feel like that you have to, if you're Giants, you could go for something like a Rumble because you're expecting the Misfits to go for something like a Moakai. You're expecting Misfits to go for a tank top because if you're going to run a Kha'Zix, especially in the jungle, then you need that front line. You need someone to soak up that damage.
All right, so they're looking for support, looking for top lane. IgNar, no stranger to tanky support. It is that Nautilus for Flaxxish in the top lane. Technically, we've seen it in the support role.
And I actually feel it's more likely to be in that support role. Given the supports that are still left available, it actually does very well into champions like the Thresh, like the Braum. And if you know you're going to be playing into something like that, which IgNar is known for, I think that you have the advantage where you can freely flex it where you want it.
All right, so potential swaps and some shenanigans here on day 2 of the spring split. It is a Thresh locked in for IgNar, signature champion, really. This is something that he made his name on in the Challenger Series and has demonstrated great proficiency. This also allows the Nautilus to go straight into it, hook City in the bottom lane, and would then allow a top laner to be locked in for Flaxxish.
And I feel like this is perfect for Giants. You just go for the Rumble, or just you go for something aggressive, because you already have the tanky jungler, and we want it aggressive.
Okay, so aggressive. Illaoi can do well, has some support. What do you make of this unique pick and ban from Giants?
Well, we say unique. This is something we saw from the Unicorns of Love during the summer split. They were the only team to actually bring out the Illaoi, and they actually made some very good work with it. She is the sort of champion that will push you under turret, and that is so important in the current metagame. Yes, she does lack a little bit of crowd control, but when you look across the comp, you have a Nautilus, you have a Varus. It's actually very easy to set her up to come in from the flank and deal the damage that we have so desperately asked for to come out from the side of Giants.
All right, so Illaoi, melee, likes to be in big team fights, has to somehow get through a Thresh Moakai to then find a SYndra and Jhin. As this game progresses, I think it's going to be difficult for Flaxxish to jump onto the Misfits team composition.
Well, I kind of think the opposite, simply because when you look at a SYndra and you look at a Jhin, they're actually fairly low mobility, and it only takes one Nautilus ultimate, it only takes one Varus ultimate to just land that single bit of CC. Then you get the flash, you get the ult coming out from the Illaoi, dunking on top of those two low mobility carries and just shutting them out of the fight completely.
The theory is that they survived that far. They survived, like Flaxxish is to get through all of that damage and the CC, so it's not going to be easy.
No.
We've not seen a lot of successful Illaoi play. This is the first of the 2017 season internationally. We've not seen Illaoi anywhere else. And now we see how Flaxxish is going to handle it on his debut game in the European LCS. We're about to load up for Misfits, qualifying from the Challenger Series, taking on Giants, returning from the summer split. There's your hashtags, MSF win or GIA win.
So QuickShot, I'd really like to start this game by looking at the lanes. Because something that we talked a lot about, especially on the analyst disc yesterday, was the lane's ability to push. And we feel like that's very important because it allows the jungler to move into the enemy, gain vision, build up your advantages. And we saw yesterday from H2K, it was very slow, very progressive. They weren't being hyper-aggressive, but because they constantly had these pushing advantages all across the map, they slowly worked their way into their opponent's jungle. Now, when you look at the draft coming out from both Giants and Misfits, Giants definitely have the advantage in the top lane. Mid is fairly even. Early on, PowerOfEvil may have a slight advantage just because it's SYndra, especially around the level 6 mark. But in the bottom lane, I actually give the push advantage ever so slightly to Varus, thanks to the combination of his Q and his E, being able to very quickly clear those waves. But that's not guaranteed. It very much depends on who's the early aggressor.
All right, early aggressor, and also if you add in the Nautilus wave clear from that Riptide, also going to give Giants the option to push. But if Giants lanes are pushing, that gives KaKAO the option to gank.
It does.
All right? And we need to track how that's going to work out. KaKAO and IgNar, they're starting off on the red side buff of their jungle, potentially setting KaKAO up some plays elsewhere on the map.
Now, you talked about KaKAO and his possibilities for going for those early ganks. Back when he played in Korea, back during the 2014 season, he actually wasn't very well known for his ability to go for those early ganks. He wasn't known as a hyper early aggressor. He was known for being a very intelligent player that would track his enemy jungle and would provide his team with a lot of information. Be that sort of safety to say, okay, I think the jungler is here, and just follow them and come up with these creative paths. He's decided to start red, go instantly towards his wolves, and he may look to try and go for a bit of a cheeky, deep vision towards the top half of the map.
Now, I like the time frame that you referenced, Vedius, because you're going back to the golden glory days. KaKAO's one of the most seasoned players this split in the European LCS, played for many, many years. Take a quick glance at the keystones, not seeing anything too surprising there. Deathfire for Illaoi up in the top lane.
Yeah, that's cool.
A little bit different, maybe, but not too surprising. And, you know, go back to KaKAO. On that invade, not in the greatest of forms. You know, this is a guy who has won an OGN Champions title and then moved to China. The stun doesn't connect, and KaKAO really not able to find that form of the glory days. Played around 58 games in the LSPL, which is the Chinese Challenger League. And since then has now moved over to Europe to join Misfits.
Yeah. For those that may not know, he started on the KT Bullets, or the KT roster as they were back then, in 2013, and he was actually the jungler that moved Insec up into the top lane. Insec, the guy that had a move named after him, a legendary jungler. KaKAO was the guy that came in and actually took his spot. That's how legendary this guy was, and moving into 2014, he was part of the team that upset SKTS and was able to win Champion Summer, taking that victory over Samsung Blue. This guy was considered one of, if not the best jungler of that time. He moved to China, and it just kind of went downhill.
And the reason that we're going into such history mode is because it's very rare that you have a player of such caliber, you know, joining a team that just qualified from CS. Now his opposite number, Memento, replacing Maxwell from Summer. Test of Spirit comes down, Alphari gets tagged up. It looks like that little golem will get procced. Death Sentence down in the bottom lane. It's IgNar that lands, and KaKAO's coming for support. Leaps forward for first blood. And that's the way you want your legendary jungler to start game one.
We talked about his possibilities of going for these early ganks. In the past, this wasn't what he's known for, but he is changing that reputation right now. Getting that first blood down in the bottom lane, using IgNar on this playmaking support to set up that first blood, as we see more trading in the mid.
PowerOfEvil manages to survive that by a good stun. Knight forced away. Dredgeline catches onto Hans Summer. That just tickles him and delays the back. IgNar with an early roam up to the mid lane. Help break off the pressure. And Flaxxish, he's pushing, he's fighting. Gonna get jumped on by Alphari. Moakai figures he can win this trade with some minion assists.
And this is the great thing about Alphari, because he would do this all the time in Challenger. He'd be on Moakai, and you'd think, like, he's just a tank. He's just going to trade with this wet noodle fight sort of thing. But he's always hyper-aggressive. We'll get back more to that later. Have a look at the setup. You've actually got no river wards from the side of Giants that see whatsoever is coming down the river.
Oh,
really good
so
positioning
good.
from IgNar, because he flashes in advance, lands the flay, gets into a position where he's in front of Hustlin, and that allows him to guarantee the hook down onto HeaQ. Really clean gank down in the bottom lane.
Amazing. And this, by the way, is something that IgNar has done many, many times in the past. You know, IgNar from the Challenger Series was a playmaker, was very aggressive, was a big reason why that roster went 15-1. And now he's just double teamed with KaKAO in a fantastic first blood play.
This was one of the things that we as a team were really excited to talk about, because IgNar, playing for Misfits, kind of had to be that leader. He was a very young player, and he kind of came in, and a lot of the support that had from the rest of the team was, IgNar's really smart. He always knows what he's doing. He always knows how to play around the map, and he's always talking to KaKAO to set up plays. And this is the thing that I think is absolutely fantastic, and more of what we're seeing. Oh, this is so good. This is perfect use of the control, because you deny that vision. KaKAO can walk in completely unnoticed, and now they have full control over the river.
They do indeed. KaKAO's instead going to back up to the river, go toe-to-toe with Memento, and maybe even go for a counter jungle or an invade. Let's see if there's any sort of collapse. Remember, it's an Infernal Drake that you can see on your screen right now, but there's a lot of movement. Vedius, this could break out to be a fight. KaKAO gets the scuttle, and there's the blast cone from Hustlin. Jumps in. The Lantern is going to be too far away. Good damage onto Memento. Misfits are able to back away unscathed. That was good heads-up play from Giants this time around, responding to the potential collapse and forcing Misfits out.
The thing is, though, KaKAO achieved what he wanted to. Look at the vision that you have around the bottom blue buff for Giants. You can see the top ward just near the blue. You can see just towards the entrance as well. So they managed to get the vision that they wanted, and they were able to get away unscathed.
They were indeed. Will anyone get away unscathed now? PowerOfEvil's coming up with access to that unleashed power. Alphari's going to be in trouble, but it's Flaxxish that goes down. Not enough damage. Where Alphari's Moakai and Misfits get their second kill of the game. Down in the bottom lane, Hansama gets caught by that dredge line, forced to take the lantern to safety, manages to survive.
So we need to backtrack all the way to this KaKAO play down the bottom lane. Because Knight moved to try and get the collapse down onto KaKAO, that enabled PowerOfEvil to get the push and make his way towards the top lane. Alphari has consistently been playing aggressive into this 1v1, so Flaxxish didn't read the play as anything different. He ends up getting baited in, and Alphari gets the knock-up just as PowerOfEvil is landing the stun, which guarantees another kill for Misfits.
So another flawless kill for the Misfits squad. Giants a little bit scrambling. We've spent a lot of time talking about the Misfits players, but what about the 3 Swedes that have now joined the Swedish Giants Mafia, as they're calling themselves? HeaQ and Hustlin in that bottom lane. HeaQ actually has some professional experience, but over in Turkey, in the TCL. So, you know, not new to a stage of this scale.
They did actually finish second on his team, Supermassive, so he's definitely no stranger to the competitive scene. And he actually used to be a former teammate of Memento. They played on a low priority back in the Challenger qualifiers, and they were actually the only team to upset Misfits, and perhaps they're looking to do it once again here.
So you mean that one game that we keep talking about,
that
the
15-1? That was actually, no, it was prior to the Challenger series, so during the Challenger qualifiers. Right. So Misfits wanted that perfect record. These 2 players ended up ruining it.
All right, Memento and HeaQ, can they double team up to make this work again? Special delivery available tonight if he wants to use it. Taking a look through some of the itemization. The wards around that river has timed out, and this Illaoi, I'm not seeing it work, Vedius. Every time we pan up to this top lane, Alphari is jumping onto Flaxxish and seemingly winning every trade.
So the one thing, or one of the reasons as to why Alphari was so hyped is not only because he knows how to play super aggressively on these tanks, but he's actually an incredibly smart player. I had the opportunity to have a chat with him. I was actually talking to him about the strengths and weaknesses of Kled, but he just has such a great understanding of how to play the lane, knows where to take advantages of windows, and note that every time Flaxxish is trying to throw out the Q, he's abusing cooldowns. He's taking advantage of the minion wave. And Alphari is just such a smart player for being such a young age. This is a large part of where all this hype is coming from.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that a lot of the people close to the professional scene and you know, other pro players, other teams, the expectation is for Alphari to be one of the, you know, hard carries on the side of Misfits. He was definitely the shining star throughout the summer split, and yeah, you can see him in action again. This time round, Flaxxish is getting some good damage from that tentacle smash. And as Alphari's spirit is tested, down to around 30–40%, but still got some HP to work with. I don't think he's that threat to being dove or killed just yet, because there's no support. Everyone instead is going to the bottom lane.
I think they may very well be looking to gain some control over the Infernal Drake, but Giants, they've actually done a great job, even though they've been pushed under in the mid and actually suffered a lot during the bottom lane. They've done a great job of just maintaining vision control around this Infernal, but I don't know if they can stop this dive.
Death sentence onto Hustlin. Flay goes backwards. The box blocks off any sort of escape. Defensive flash from IgNar, and PowerOfEvil gets a great stun onto HeaQ. HeaQ flashes for his life. The second, third, and fourth shots of the curtain call ring true across the Giants' back line. Tower first blood, just about secured here by Misfits. Finally goes down. And Alphari teleported in to join the fight. Single assist to his name. No, that was from earlier, not even assist. So just that front line to help tank up the tower.
But just another great setup coming out from Misfits. Even though there was all of this vision control from Giants around the bottom half of the map, Misfits realized that they had the push in the mid lane. They had the push in the bottom lane. The tower was already low, and their main priority was getting that objective. You can see that they know that they're walking through all this vision. They don't care. They can force this dive. They have the additional TP. I do think that it was a little bit late coming out from Alphari, but I think that was because he was forced back from the Illaoi. Nevertheless, they're able to get the kill. They force them back. They get that first tower, and now they open up the map just a little bit more.
All right, so as we jump out of the replay, we're only 12 minutes into the game. Misfits are up 3 kills, up 2,000 gold, up a tower, up a dragon. they are really just styling this early game. And look at your minimap, guys. IgNar is roaming up to this top lane. Hunsummer has already gone up to the top to apply pressure to that top outer tower.
And this is, again, what we were talking about from what we saw in IgNar in the Challenger Series. He likes to be a playmaker. He likes to move around the map. Having that bottom tower taken away just enables him and KaKAO to now be this roaming death squad where they can just move into the enemy jungle, take full vision control of it, and start to make these plays around the map that we know IgNar loves to do.
That's exactly what Misfits are doing. Memento, on the other hand, pretty invisible this game.
Yeah.
You know, it has been the KaKAO IgNar show. They've roamed around. PowerOfEvil with a very good roam up to the top as well. Close.
Sneaky.
But unfortunately for Memento, he's just not found an opportunity. And you know, this is a guy who has stage experience. He's played with Rocket in the past. Comes from the challenger scene as well, a number of teams. He's going to be joining Hustlin to apply pressure to this top tower. But Memento himself hasn't had an opportunity to find a way into this game.
And a lot of it comes back to what we were talking about in the early game when it comes to pressure is, hang on a second, Flaxxish.
Yeah, defensive flash. I mean, Alphari, he took 50% of Flaxxish's HP alone with just that vengeful Maelstrom. So much work. But praise to Giants, they've secured an outer tower at least. At what cost? No support in the inner bottom, and it looks like Misfits are hammering away.
This is actually great for Misfits because Giants responded well as they recognized that KaKAO was in the bottom half of the map. So they could do exactly the same play that Misfits did, just on the top side. So they could end up equalizing the turrets. But then Misfits say, oh, okay, if you're going to invest 3 members to the top side, we're going to keep your Corki mid with the SYndra. We're going to get him shoved underneath the turret. And then we're going to send 3 members bot, force the flash from Flaxxish, and get ourselves a tier 2 turret. So Misfits are always so quick to react. And this is the experience from KaKAO that we're really starting to see add to this youthful mechanical roster.
And I think you have to also highlight something about the Misfits roster. They had a very big boot camp over in Korea. A lot of training had been scrimming for a while, earlier than several teams. And talking about sort of training and scrims and prep, you know, Giants, they've made a lot of substitutions between summer and spring. Sonstar, their former ADC, is now the strategic coach. And I want to see how Giants continue to develop, because an Illaoi top, Corki mid, Nautilus support is not something I'm seeing really even talked about by a lot of teams and players and leagues. So I want to see how this develops. You know, 15 minutes in, down 3,000 gold. There is a lot of damage and tools to work with, but Giants are very far behind.
I mean, the great thing about Giants comp is they actually have a very powerful mid-game spike with the Trinity Force Corki. You have the Illaoi, who, in all honesty, is just incredibly strong throughout the early to mid-game portion, just due to the high base stats that she has, as well as the Black Cleaver that she's already been able to pick up. HeaQ working towards an Essence Reaver as well will actually enable him to have just that slightly earlier spike in the game. So Giants could look to fight around this mid-game, but I feel like given how much pressure they've been put under early, has really stinted their ability to force anything at this point in the game.
Yeah, one thing I misspoke earlier, it is Giants that got the Infernal Drake, in fact, not Misfits. So that is at least one advantage. Giants could get another, some pressure in the mid lane. Knight gets caught out, Death Sentence tags Memento. Curtain Call gonna get body blocked by Memento for a shot or two before IgNar and KaKAO continue the chase. Depth Charge goes out and knocks up 2 Misfits members, but 1-2 flashes blown in the exchange. And Giants are able to escape with their lives.
Really good positioning from IgNar, putting himself in a position where he was completely out of vision. Giants felt like they had the numbers advantage, so they could actually contest that vision. But it was then landing the stun from PowerOfEvil to get the follow-up from IgNar that you actually force a lot of summoner spells out from the side of Giants, and Misfits just continuing on with this pressure. I feel like at this point in the game, they should try and prioritize getting that top turret, but they know that the dragon is spawning in about 1 minute and 20 seconds. They realize that they want to try and maintain control over that side of the map, so they don't give all these free dragons over to the side of Giants.
Free dragons could be a way in for Giants as they're still clawing from behind. And Vedius, I mean, you're a mid lane main.
Yep.
Why was Knight picking Corki this game?
Well,
what do you think the concept is?
So one of the great things about Corki is actually how safe and neutral he is as a mid laner, because he has good wave clear, he has good scaling because he is in part an AD carry, but also he does a lot of magic damage naturally from his kit. And against the SYndra in particular, it's very difficult to kill him because you can go for a very early Hex Drinker, which is a lot of magic resistance, which mitigates a lot of the one-shot potential that a SYndra does have. But also when you have SYndra and a Kha'Zix, that's a lot of damage very early on into the game. So Corki is just a very safe, good scaling mid laner that is just sort of well-rounded and easy to pick into the SYndra specifically.
All right, into SYndra specifically, and
you
we'll see how...
Sorry, but you also have a lot of poke when you pair it up with the Varus.
Yeah, we'll see how it works in the mid to late game, because we're getting into that time frame. Teleport coming up here for Alphari. Flaxxish is the target. Who will be securing the kill is the answer. Whoa. A lot of damage! And that's a bug splat for KaKAO.
Really nice response coming out from Flaxxish. Even in a 1 versus 4, he's able to get a kill, but that's the thing about Illaoi. You have to remember that the more people, that means more tentacles, and KaKAO just didn't quite respect the amount of slap damage that Flaxxish was able to put out.
So Flaxxish gets the first kill for Giants. Mid-outer turret is secured, as well as this bottom outer in a moment. Alphari, Hunt, Summon, IgNar are applying pressure top. We're getting to 20 minutes, and Giants, they're getting some global gold. They're getting these objectives, and they defend the tower, and they get a dragon. So I think net gain is in favor of Giants right now.
Right now, in terms of objectives gained, I certainly agree with you, unless PowerOfEvil can actually pick up this mid lane turret. Thanks to the cannon wave, you may be able to get it, but you're right. They lost their mid lane turret. Misfits had to give it away because they invested 4 members to the top side of the map. They even used the teleport from Alphari, and because Alphari wasn't there to defend the bottom, that allowed Knight to pick up that objective as well. This will make things a little bit better for the side of Misfits, given that now the map is way more open and they haven't lost as much control. But as you rightly said, the fact that Misfits gave away a kill as well as so many objectives isn't the best case scenario for them. So you can see Flaxxish, he actually prioritizes hitting onto KaKAO. The teleport from Alphari was actually just a little bit delayed, which allowed Flaxxish position himself in a way to get the damage down. So they couldn't engage. KaKAO took a bit more damage than they wanted, and he ended up getting squashed.
The thing I want to point out about that play is just how disciplined the Misfits roster was. 4 members, they were waiting for the TP. They didn't want to take turret aggro too early. It felt like a very controlled dive, which is not something we're used to seeing on a day 1, week 1 debut game for a challenger team.
I mean, bear in mind, what we're used to seeing from Misfits is they would have a 20,000 gold lead at this point in the game, and they would be winning all 3 lanes and just building up a free advantage. And this was one of the problems that they had actually coming into their promotion tournament, because they didn't respect the fact that, oh, we're not winning lane anymore, you know, we're going even. What do we do now? Where are we supposed to move? And I do think that we have to backtrack to what you were saying earlier. The boot camp, the experience that they've now gotten on the team, not only in the form of KaKAO, but PowerOfEvil as well. Almost a veteran player at this point, given that he's been in the league now for 2 years. I think has done a lot of favors for the team of Misfits.
Yeah, showing in the advantages they built up. 20 minutes, 4 kills to 1, 4 towers to 3. Both dragons in the side of Giants. That is a great insurance policy if the game continues to play out towards that Elder Dragon time frame. And in terms of the Giants' team composition, they have a lot of power in this stage of the game.
Yep.
You know, 2-item Illaoi is very close to being completed. HeaQ's working towards his second Trinity Force now for Knight. So their team composition is really sort of just coming online. But there is the ticking time bomb in Moakai as well. You know, at some point, Maokai's been able to tank for days. So where do Giants look to claw back this deficit?
Well, they could look to claw it back now as IgNar. He's going to be forced to flash, but what you'll see is that Giants are actually putting a lot of attention around Baron, because even though they've been pushed early on in the lane, as you rightly said, at this point in the game is where they've hit a very big spike. And this is where they can look to try and force things. This is where they try and force those team fights, where we may very well see the low mobility of SYndra and Jhin struggle against the likes of this diving Illaoi and Rek'Sai. So they need to maintain control of the Baron, and they've done a fantastic job. Just look at how much control they have. And Misfits, they're just scared right now. Like, the only vision they can get is just on the touches, and this is great for Giants, because you're forcing Misfits into a situation that is not optimal for them.
Both blue trinkets unavailable for Misfits. Memento sitting on the front line on top of a control ward. He knows he's safe, and he's using that tremor sense to detect any threats. Hustlin's going to get tagged out by the curtain call. HeaQ eats a 2 shot, and the final one goes out, but the Unleashed Power picks up the kill. Hustlin goes down, and that was just a great pick-off by Misfits.
Little to no magic resistance on Hustlin right now. He did not respect the possible pick potential and power coming out from PowerOfEvil, as we see a bit of an all-in in the bottom lane.
Oh, this time round, Alphari does not want the fight. Respects the leap of faith. Backs away, taking a look at teleports, both available for Flaxxish and Alphari. All of that vision, that pressure from Giants has been alleviated because Hustlin got picked off.
Just a very small thing that I really want to highlight. 228 farm at 22 minutes on a Moakai. Like, that's just really cool, very impressive. Nice to see that how much pressure this Alphari really is exerting against an Illaoi who's supposed to be a lane bully. That's her purpose. And she has not been able to do that, largely thanks to the early gank and just to the way that Alphari's been playing.
Yeah, all credit to Alphari. He was winning those trades before KaKAO showed his face. And PowerOfEvil, in fact. Important to note, some attention multiple times. Death Dance picked up by Flaxxish. Randian's Omen for Alphari, so stacking that armor. Obviously going to be taking a lot of auto attacks. And here's the replay. So just Hustlin really caught out.
Yeah, he just didn't respect the pick potential. Well, that was a lot of damage. 5 orbs were able to be placed down. Can be a little bit underestimated, especially when like you think, I'm fine, I've got like 60% of my HP, and then you realize, each one of these does a 1/5 of my HP. That's not great. But nevertheless, another advantage game for Misfits. And now what they need to be the ones reclaiming control of the Baron. You can see they just use their trinket to spot it out, so they have a little bit of vision. But now that there is no one on the map, this is a great opportunity for Misfits to start pushing up. Dragon is going to be spawning soon. Unfortunately, it is a Cloud Dragon, but it is another objective for them to play around. And they just need to maintain control, because they have good scaling, they have good team fighting later on into the game, especially when the only real major tank is Memento, which someone like a Jhin can play around.
Yeah, Memento on that Rek'Sai. Still 0-0-0, 105 CS to 130, and I'm going to need to see more from Memento.
Yep.
You know, there's been multiple ganks from KaKAO, multiple roams from Misfits, and it feels like as a team, Giants are not as cohesive as Misfits. And I see another trade. This time around, Alphari's a little bit more willing to fight. Holds on to his Vengeful Maelstrom. Actually looks like there was Krugs fighting as well. Gigantic fight in the mid lane. Redemption is dropped by Hustlin. Stun onto HeaQ, he's in trouble. Unleashed power, doesn't pick up the kill though. It's a shutdown onto PowerOfEvil. Giants get one and they run away. Curves the bullet, Angelina. Not gonna get the kill, and Knight survives the 4th.
Really good exhaust coming out from Hustlin to keep his AD carry alive. He baited PowerOfEvil underneath the 4-man unit of Giants, and they're able to get the kill. They walk away with just blinking health bars, but overall, that is a teamfight win for Giants.
They get the kill, they survive the exchange, but look at the summoner spell damage. Only a flash on Flaxxish. Hunt Summer and IgNar managed to get away with that one. You need to take a look. Was the Unleashed Power exhausted? I feel like it was.
At just the right time. It was so good from the side of Giant. Now, there are 2 exhausts, so I couldn't tell you exactly which one of the 2 was used. But the fact that while all this was going on, Flaxxish was actually doing a lot of work down in the bottom lane, enabled Giants to just gain so much more pressure on the map. Look, Flaxxish now actually has a level advantage over Alphari. Yes, Alphari, you may be willing to play aggressively, but the fact that Flaxxish has actually picked up this Death Dance is enabling to keep pressure. So keep your eyes on the HeaQ, because he actually gets hit by a stun from PowerOfEvil just off to the side, right? And then there, you see the first exhaust just as the Unleashed Power comes out. And because PowerOfEvil flashed in to get that kill, that is what resulted in the teamfight loss for Misfits. But it wasn't such a big loss that there was any major objectives or any traction gained from Giants. It was just that kill that went over to the side of Giants and that shutdown gold, which the team will gain.
There was enough damage onto the Giant squad. They couldn't push the advantage any further. But Vedius, for the last 10 minutes, that 3,000 gold advantage that Misfits have built up has stagnated. It hasn't snowballed, it hasn't extended. Arguably because of the team composition from Giants. You know, they've hit some item spikes and breakpoints. But this is now where the pressure is on. Giants still playing defensive, still behind, but they've got some confidence back in that team fight win. The Hurricane picked up by HeaQ, and Flaxxish is still just, you know, playing this one-on-one. Wet noodle. Well, it's not really a wet noodle fight because Flaxxish's Illaoi hits pretty hard.
Yeah, Flaxxish is now getting to a point where it looks like he's either working towards a Trinity Force, or he could be working towards the other thing. He's definitely working towards a Phage with that thing,
yes.
Right?
And we'll see what happens next.
Trinity Force would make the most sense, given that he's already got the Black Cleaver.
But no tankiness whatsoever,
but
if that's the option.
Because he's just sitting in a side lane, he's just drawing pressure. Giant's constantly playing this 1-4-1. You have the Corki and the Varus to act as constant wave clear. You can always disengage with the Nautilus and just use Memento as a frontline tank. And you're basically forcing Misfits to make a decision.
Force Misfits to make a decision. They've made pretty good ones so far. Only that small misstep a moment ago. Death Sentence just short of Knight. With that Trinity Force, Hextech Revolver, and Hex Drinker. Non-traditional build as far as I can see. And Baron is, once again, priority. Cloud Drake is on the map. Baron is on the map. There's not a great amount of vision. And there are 3 blue trinkets on the side of Misfits around that area.
This is all Giants need to do, though, because while they may have lost control around the Baron, Flaxxish is now at a point where Alphari will not win that 1 versus 1. Level 16, big spike in terms of ultimate because you now have that at max rank. This is going to constantly keep Alphari on the back foot, and if Misfits try to go for a collapse, they end up giving away Baron priority over Giants. But Misfits are just saying, let's force the Baron, let's force a fight.
Yeah, but there's a ward that's in the back of that Baron pit. Misfits are aware of it. Teleport comes down. Alphari's got a Guardian Angel. If a fight were to break out, I can see another ward inside the pit. Flaxxish continues to apply pressure in the bottom lane. He needs to teleport to a fight. There is a ward in the pit for Flaxxish to teleport to, holding their nerve. Giants have decided not to. Instead, it's a TP to the river. Dredgelight catches on Alphari. Chain of Corruption is spreading, locking down Hansama, but he's not killed yet. Flaxxish is holding on to the leap of faith. GA not going to get tagged just yet. Defensive flashes, and Misfits live to tell another tale.
Look at how difficult it was for Misfits to actually get into that fight, though, because this front line of Hustlin, Memento, and Flaxxish just means that with the low mobility carries that you have on Misfits, there is no threat on all this poke that's coming out from HeaQ and Knight.
The Dredge line catches PowerOfEvil, and he gets taken down! KaKAO jumps into a sacrificial position. Knight gets his 2nd kill of the fight. The tower falls, and Giants, they take the gold lead for the first time.
They knew that they had the health advantage. They had forced the big frontline tank of Alphari back to base. They knew they could push onto this tier 2 in the mid lane, and now they've gotten themselves 2 kills. They've gotten themselves full control over the map. They've finally been able to equalize the gold lead, and now Baron may very well be on the cards of this team.
30 minutes in, and the drama grows. Memento caught with a death sentence. That's going to at least interrupt the recall. That means a lower health tank. KaKAO and PowerOfEvil only just spawning. Alphari's going in. GA and Vengeful Maelstrom buying a lot of time. Leap of Faith puts all the tentacles up. Hustlin's already down. Giants forced away from Baron. Hansama takes the lantern before he's killed by Memento. Alphari follows after, and a flash from IgNar to save his life. But they stop the Baron.
Misfits in a 3 versus 5 feel that they have to stop this play from happening, because if they lose the Baron, they lose the game, and they cannot afford to do that. So they just make the decision, look, we don't have KaKAO, we don't have PowerOfEvil, so let's just make it. Now, PowerOfEvil, he's just trying to defend his turret. He should have just let it go. Really good hook, though, from Hustlin to land it at max range, and then KaKAO coming in from the flank, I honestly think was just a bit of a bad decision, because coming in from that flank, what was he going to achieve? Jumping over that wall, there was little he could do. And notice that the SYndra and the Kha'Zix are still dead. Alphari is just soaking up a lot of the damage. He's doing what he can, as well as the Baron. He ends up burning his GA, but all Misfits needed to do was just get them away from the Baron, and they did just that.
So they stopped the Baron going down. Yes, they did lose Alphari in the process. They lost a Dragon as well. I think that was Giants that picked up the next Cloud Drake. Very focused look from Lozark on your screen right now. But it's an even game. Giants have fought from a significant deficit. And this is the damage from the Baron fight specifically, Vedius. A lot of damage from Giants to pick up that kill. Tells you how tanky Alphari is, because most of that is his hit points.
Illaoi smash, ladies and gentlemen. You do not want to mess with her when she's angry, especially when you have 4 tentacles all over the map.
4 tentacles on the map, and Flaxxish has the opportunity to put more down. Got himself the Spectre's Cowl. Kindle Gem, Longsword, so didn't complete the phase, which is what we thought maybe might happen. Ghost Blade for Corki in the mid lane, plus Hex and Trinity Force. Hansama's got his rapid fire cannon. Everybody continues to scale up. We've hit the early stages of a late game. Which team composition? Which team composition do you prefer more? At 30 minutes knowing there's a Moakai, knowing SYndra, Jhin.
Right now, I prefer Giants' composition, largely because of the way that they're playing it. And you have these three big, beefy frontliners. Now, Flaxxish may have gone a little bit more damage. We have to come back to that because the Baron's just been started.
All right, has indeed been started. Giants not in position to start a fight, but they at least zone Misfits away. The minion wave heavily in favor of Misfits down bottom, and teleport is about 30 seconds away for Flaxxish. So Giants need to keep him close by for a little while longer.
So Knight is the one that's going to go deal with that minion wave. This could be an opportunity for Misfits to try and force a play. The problem is they have no hard initiation. Their only way to force a fight is actually get a flank from Alphari or to land a hook from IgNar.
But they didn't deal with the minion wave. It's still pushing. Knight has decided to use that special delivery to come back to the Baron. The wave is still pushing towards Giants.
Really smart play from Misfits, just baiting Giants back and forth all the time. Now Flaxxish is moving there, but his teleport is now back available. So Misfits, unfortunately, are going to lose a little bit more priority around that Baron.
All right, they will indeed. Looking at vision, it's Giants with slightly better coverage inside the blue side jungle of Misfits. Thank you for that one, observers. And Misfits now need to deal with the wave up top, while Giants are dealing with the wave down bottom. And this game just got significantly more interesting. It felt like Misfits could have run away with the lead. Now they're trying to stop Baron once again. It's a good old European Baron dance.
TP.
Flaxxish is going to come in from behind. Knight has got caught up by the stun. Knight is in trouble, he's down! Alphari gets the kill credit. Giants are split up, but they've separated HunSummer and IgNar. They're running towards the blue buff. PowerOfEvil is down. HunSummer on 200 HP, running for his life. Continues to tag Flaxxish. The tentacles have timed out. KaKAO's looking for a leap. Does go over the wall. Looks for HeaQ, but the exhaust blocks his damage. He's stealth for a few seconds longer before he's taken down. It's a 1 for 2 in favor of Giants. Alphari is tagged and will be killed as well. HeaQ gets another.
The problem for HunSummer is he's playing this Jhin, which is just not a tank killer. Earlier on I said that, hey, maybe he could get through this front line. Maybe he could find a way to just deal with this beefy front line the Giants have, but you're seeing why Jhin struggles so much, because he just doesn't have the late game damage to shred through these tanks. Only having 4 auto attacks makes it so difficult that Flaxxish could effectively 1 versus 3. Things looked so promising at the start of that fight for Misfits, but it ended in disaster.
Giants with another team fight win, and here's the replay.
So look, the flash in from PowerOfEvil, another crisp exhaust coming out from the side of Giants to mitigate a lot of the damage. It's not enough to stop Knight from going down, but then it succeeds in splitting up Misfits. Now you can see that HunSummer, he gets forced out alone by Flaxxish, and he just can't do anything in these fights. He can't heal for himself, he can't deal the damage to shred through the tanks, and thanks to the second exhaust that was coming out from the side of Giants, they're also able to cut out KaKAO. So honestly, just really good team fighting from the side of Giants, utilizing this front line as a good support for the back line that's just dealing so much poke damage.
And Giants take a sizable lead. There's your team fight damage from the previous fight. Flaxxish just hammering away. Over and over and over. Gonna Spirit Visage now. A little bit of additional tanky stats. Rapid Fire Cannon picked up for Knight, thanks to the team fight win and Baron. And Elder Dragons up with 3 dragons in the bank. That insurance policy has come to fruition, Vedius, because Giants are now in control of the game.
And you know, we criticized Memento for his early game, his impact in terms of what was he doing in the early game, but have a look at his score now, have a look at his impact in these team fights. He's being a reliable initiator, he's being a good job at focusing the targets, providing the CC to allow HeaQ and Knight to get the follow-up. And now he could be that forefront, that front line to help them close out this first game.
Yeah, it's a surprise, isn't it? Those Giants looked like they were just outclassed for 20 minutes of the game, but they were able to defend, they were able to stop giving up more objectives. And Giants have won several mid-game team fights. It's happened a couple of times, starting from that mid lane a little while ago. HunSummer with the deadly flourish to lock down Memento. Doesn't really have any follow-up though. PowerOfEvil, Ghost will become available shortly, and Giants are going to be happy to just poke away. 2/3 of that buff from Baron has been used.
And you're starting to see why Misfits was so afraid of giving away this Baron to this team composition, because you have the Corki poke, you have the Varus harass, you have all of this additional damage coming from a range that you can't do anything about. And when you pair that up with the fairly weak wave clear on the side of Misfits, it becomes so difficult to defend these turns.
Death sentence onto Memento. He's got a GA. Alphari's actually engaged onto the tank, but that's good. If Memento can't distract people, the squishies are available. Enhanced recalls can be used as well as that Void Rush to re-engage. So Memento looking for an opportunity to move. Flash is available for IgNar as well. And if there was ever a man to flash hook, that is the man to watch. Still hanging around on the sideline. HeaQ and Knight, they're backing away, but Misfits, they don't find an opening just yet.
Fortunately for Misfits, that right now they're just forcing Giants to back away from their base. That Baron, as you rightly said, only has about 30 seconds left on it, so they were able to survive the onslaught. They ended up only losing one tier 2 tower up in the top lane, but they've been able to reclaim some of the vision back in their own jungle.
Yeah, that Baron felt more like almost like an equalizer of pressure.
Yes.
You know, Giants had been defensive and holding off the blows from Misfits all game long.
But just look at the control on the map. You can see not only in the gold, but how much has changed throughout the game. Because initially it was Misfits that were pushing their vision line up into Giants' jungle. It was them forcing plays all around the map, landing those picks, getting all those additional objectives. And now Giant, they just bought time. They used the composition. They played around objectives well. And now they're at a point where they're the ones in control of the enemy jungle. They're the ones forcing plays, and Misfits are really running out of answers.
Yeah, they really are. Knight is in a little bit of trouble yet. Death Sentence connects onto Knight. Special delivery is available and used! Oh! Does not matter. Unleashed power follows him all the way.
This is a fantastic pick for Misfits. They are able to catch Knight out of position. That is a 45-second death timer, and they land a hook!
There's the flash hook, but instantly cleansed by the QSS. HeaQ's running for his life. And we said it, we called it. IgNar is an aggressive playmaker. Always keep your eyes on possibilities from that kid.
But I'm so confused as to what Knight is doing, because look at the vision from Giants. It'd be great if we could just see what they see right now, because he should have had full vision or knowledge that Misfits were not on the map, and they were looking to get that hit.
That's going to cost the Elder Dragon, Vedius, the rookie of the split from Summer. One of the most talked about mid laners, and Knight gets caught out. Alphari teleports down. The Test of Spirit's actually going to bring a tentacle with him. Teleport coming down from Flaxxish. Elder Dragon, 2,500. Memento goes in, 50-50. Where are the smites? The fight breaks out. Giants gonna lose Memento. Redemption goes down. Misfits get Elder.
Really clean Elder Dragon take coming out from the side of Misfit. They completely stop hitting the Elder Dragon. They shut down Memento. They pick that objective up. And while they will lose a turret in the top lane, Misfits have said, we might be down, but we are certainly not out.
Not yet. They can continue the fight. The additional damage and burn from Elder will help, but they have no elemental dragons to work with. And power is not going to get amplified. Guardian Angel available for Alphari. Mementos was popped. So that means an additional life to play with. What feels like when we get to the next Baron fight. And this was just greedy.
Look at the vision. Like there's so much control for Giants in the enemy half of the jungle, and you see no one. Like, oh, Misfits, they're not top. They're not in their top half of the jungle. They're not in their base. We don't see them. Hey, I'm going to push my bottom lane. Like, it's just such a massive mistake from Knight that I wouldn't expect from this guy.
Isolated death that is nearly unforgivable. You know, at this late in the game, we've hit 40 minutes. We've got Elder Drake on IgNar and the rest of Misfits a little while longer, a minute or so. And the next big team fight could determine the outcome of this game. We're late enough that a strong push will finish, especially with all of the damage. I mean, look at KaKAO's build. Tiamat, Warrior, Black Cleaver, more of Mortius. Nice cap, dude.
I just like the fact that you called him dude.
Yeah. Gotta stay hip with the young guys, you know?
I feel you. Now, remember that Elder Dragon did get an ever so slight buff in terms of its duration, which means that Misfits have a slightly longer window to take advantage of it, but there's not much left. There's about 30 seconds, and they're going for a push mid.
Look at the positioning. Forcing Giants to respond allows Misfits to get deeper vision. Baron has just spawned. Now, Misfits spent 10 minutes playing around Baron. They tried to get vision, they tried to set up the base, and it backfired. It backfired last time. Giants have to respond very quickly.
Down quick.
Baron's being melted, 50%. Death Sentence finds Memento, but there's no damage to follow it up. Test of Spirit are used as well. Hustlin's on the front line, but he's flashing away to safety. Chain of Corruption spreads. Hansama flashes to safety. Nobody's died yet. Curtain call is being used. Knight finds Hansama. KaKAO's looking for Knight. Exhaust buys a few seconds of time. They've traded 1 for 1 as IgNar dies in the back end. Stun is going to fall just a little short though. As Knight suicided, but maybe to save the fight.
These fights are so close, and it is becoming so difficult for Hans to really get involved. He ends up going down along with his support, but Giants successfully stave off the Baron, and they had to go for that fight because Misfits, they still had the Elder Dragon. It was being burnt through so quickly that if they didn't respond, that would have been a big objective going to the side of Misfits.
Somebody talk to the Misfits coach, Daku. Send him a note. Baron baits need work. At the moment, this game, Misfits have tried so many different variations, you know, rushing it, playing vision, applying pressure, and Giants just seem to have an answer.
But they have to, because compositionally, if Misfits don't do anything, they're just going to get poked out and lose their base. And this is the best way for them to do it. Force Alphari to sit on the front line, have Hansama sit on the back with PowerOfEvil, just slowly working their way through the tanks. But Hans, he just mispositions. He ends up getting chunked out, and then he goes for an ultimate, which Knight reads very well. He redeemed himself with that play, flashing over the wall, nuking him before he has an opportunity to react, and that is what enabled Giants to get that team fight win.
And allows Giants to take a look at all that damage. There you go. SYndra, ladies and gentlemen.
Late game SYndra too.
6,500 damage alone by PowerOfEvil. Flashes only available for IgNar on the side of Misfits, but that's the man you wanted on. Death sentence from a screen and a half away. Teleports up for Flaxxish and Alphari. And I think we're starting to see a little bit more of the youthfulness of these teams, you know? The only play that's really happened for a while is Baron. Flaxxish is trying his best to split push, pushing out this bottom tower, but can Giants interrupt the Baron? Can Giants delay this? Baron has been started, teleport needs to come in. There's still a ward, death sentence onto IgNar, he's already down. It was the dredge line, Baron picked up by Memento. Giants have already won this one, they've got the buff. PowerOfEvil is exhausted, does not find a kill. Hansama is down, it's a double kill for Flaxxish, continues to look for more. PowerOfEvil running for his life. 3 members of Misfits are down, and the Baron!
Memento, you did a fantastic thing, saving your team from what could have been a horrendous situation. Getting the steal away from KaKAO, you can add that to your book of achievements.
Hustlin just interrupting PowerOfEvil, delaying the back. Even if he goes down, it doesn't matter, because the base will be opened. Traded 1 for 1. There's an exposed inhibitor in the top lane. 60-second death timer. KaKAO's spirit will be tested. That Kha'Zix had a great early game, but just fell to pieces in the mid and now late game. Giants have got an inhibitor. Look for their second, and may look for more.
They could very well end the game right now. Alphari is still dead. PowerOfEvil is gone. Hansama will be able to do very little against these tanks, but they're going to play it safe. 2 inhibitors are down. They can move into the bottom lane, wait for those minion waves to stack, and let's just have a look at how this play broke down, because you still have Flaxxish in the bottom lane. IgNar's just buying time. They want a nuke it, and KaKAO, he just isn't quite able to get the Q smite combo. Memento lands the smite as KaKAO is going for his Q, and that gives him enough damage to steal it away. All of Misfits are stuck in the pit, and it just isn't enough. They just didn't have the damage. Hans couldn't really impact the play in any way. PowerOfEvil was exhausted, but just like it was in every other fight. And honestly, Giants could not have played that any better.
At the beginning of this game, there was discussion around Memento and the fact that he had to fill Max Law's shoes. Max Law, arguably the second best player on Giants Summer Split last year, just behind Knight. And Memento has showed up in the mid to late game. Early game didn't have the impact. It was all about KaKAO. But as the game has progressed, frontline, target selection, and now are just, you know, winning the 50-50 smite fight, proving invaluable in his debut for Giants.
And things right now are looking bleak for Misfits, because 46 minutes into the game, 2 inhibitors are down. And honestly, Giants, they could just walk into the base right now. They still have at least 2 minutes left on their Baron buff, I think. I can't see the timer.
Ballpark.
They've still got a fair amount of time left on that Baron. We got about a minute left, and honestly, Giants, early game, as you already said, looked rough, but they have come back into this game beautifully.
And I think it's important to note as well that Giants as a team, oh wow, look at that, minions pulled all the way to the bottom lane. That's actually just going to create a little bit of confusion now for Misfits. They have to deal with Supers behind them, Supers in front of them, Giants as well. Hansama starts using the curtain call. The threat from Memento interrupts him. Redemption's used aplenty. PowerOfEvil's already down. Giants are going to look for another. Flash forward from Flaxxish. No, it was the leap of faith, the test of faith rather. Thrown out. Misfits are routed. They are just getting pulled apart. They cannot stand to fight. Memento burrows into KaKAO's face, and the piercing arrow kills KaKAO where he stands. The Nexus turrets are falling 1 and 2, and Giants upset the apple cart and take down Misfits.
Beautiful stuff from Giants in the later stages of the game. And just a really fun game, QuickShot. That was really nice to see the back and forth, the incredibly tense team fights, the smart strategic early game from Misfits. Just so many components of this game made it really enjoyable.
It's a different group of players for Giants from their appearance at IEM, but you cannot deny the fact that there has been some growth, some development. They're also playing against a young squad. Giants fell apart in the early game. You know, they just did not go well.
But it was part of their comp at the same time. They definitely got outplayed in terms of who was moving where on the map. The way in which Misfits set up the dive, we have to backtrack early on to where they just walked through all that vision, knew they could take the tower.
Yeah.
Off the back of KaKAO getting that very early first blood in the bottom lane, it was just, Misfits had full control of the early. They knew exactly what to do. But then you just have to credit, because Giants invested in the Dragons. Everything they lost, they always took at least a little something back.
Yes.
And every time, okay, they lost the mid tower, they lost the top tower. What are we doing? We're getting vision around Baron. We're buying time. And they got to a point where these 3 big tanks could sit on the front line. There was nothing that Jhin and SYndra could do, especially with the double exhaust on the side of Giants too.
That was so pivotal. The 2 exhausts, time and time again. PowerOfEvil's unleashed power, it got fizzled.
Yeah.
Yesterday, SYndra blew up every single person that SYndra wanted to kill, and today that was not the case.
And a great thing that Crepo said to me yesterday on the analyst desk, which was, if you only have 2 damage sources and you exhaust one of them, half of your damage output is gone. And you sit there and you also look at Hansama, who against tanks can't really do anything. Where is your damage coming from? It became so difficult for them to shred through these tanks. And I think that was a big part as to why Giants were able to secure that first game.
It was indeed a great victory from behind for Giants. They fired the first shot here in this best of 3 against Misfits. Let's head to the analyst desk to break it down.
Thank you very much, guys. And we would like to start with that ending of the game. As Vedius explained, if you exhaust one target, they're out of half their health. Plus, they have such incredibly tanky members on the side of Giants, it's hard to take them down. So let's take a look at the Baron that essentially netted Giants the win and the steal.
Yeah, desperation mode from Misfits. They know their composition gets outscaled. They can't really win 5-on-5 team fights, so they try and rush Baron, but obviously Memento, the new El Bandito, is in here and he takes the Baron.
And this is the worst possible thing to
Illaoi in Baron pit.
Because suddenly 4 people are in Baron pit with Illaoi, and this is the Illaoi dream. 4 people walk into you, they stand still for you for a couple seconds, and you get to deal all of that insane damage. And you don't even need CC. They've put themselves in there for you.
Yep, and that was the ending of the game, but we gotta rewind, because how did Giants end up in the advantageous position after Misfits drafted themselves a good comp and had a pretty good early game? We were looking at PowerOfEvil. He got his hands on his SYndra that he loved so much, and he used it correctly as well. Up in lane versus Corki, he roamed, he put pressure on the map early.
Yeah, we look at this. This is exactly what we wanted to see from PowerOfEvil. These first couple kills helped set the team ahead, and more importantly, showed us that PowerOfEvil was willing to play something outside of lane. So constricted in lane when he played on Origin. So stuck with the Varus in the mid lane. SYndra, of course, a good pick for him overall, but him roaming is a great start for the team. Got this pick comp ahead, and that dive was executed incredibly well.
Yeah, I like this draft for Misfits a lot, and I actually felt like after watching the early game, I'm like, okay, they're playing it 100% correct, because SYndra can push in Corki early, you outrange the Corki, slightly less mana cost on your abilities, and again, as we talked about, PowerOfEvil used it. Side lanes were winning, IgNar was making plays in the bottom lane. It was actually like almost perfect. Problem for Misfits is just their composition needed to then keep creating picks, especially around Baron. So like you push out mid lane, you set up vision near Baron, and you don't start it, because we have this top laner from the enemy team who's just going to scale and scale and scale and become a very strong split pusher.
Yeah, in the beginning, it looked like Moakai had the upper hand on the lane. He got a gank as well, but then later on, all of a sudden, Illaoi was able to put pressure on the map, and that created openings for Giants.
Yeah, and this is where Misfits basically stopped doing anything, so they just allowed Illaoi to get 2 full items. She gets Black Cleaver, and she gets Death's Dance, and she gets Sustain, Armor Penetration, everything she needs. And this will just keep happening, so now you have lost this lane completely, and that's why the 4-man group got to start winning. but they couldn't force any picks, didn't set up vision properly, and then they ended up starting Baron without a tank in there, and it just became very desperate.
The desperation plays overall, and I think the thing that Misfits didn't really respect is that there's a theoretical world where if you'd had a different AD carry or a different mid laner where you could have fought these sustained fights, but Jhin is a mage. Let's be honest. He has 4 shots and he's done for a team fight. He's got a couple abilities, that's great. SYndra, obviously a mage as well. Once they blow all those cooldowns, they can't kill anyone. And if you blow all those cooldowns with Illaoi still up and alive, Corki still up and alive, Varus, they all have enough sustained damage to cut through your entire team. So even if you shut down one target with the SYndra, it's not enough.
So as we look at a couple of replays of Misfits going for Baron, you guys are saying it's not the decision to go for Baron that was wrong, but it is the fact that you're not identifying what you have to do in that Baron pit besides hitting it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the setup, and then it's the problem for Misfits is it's okay to start Baron if you know the enemy team is coming instantly because you don't have a tank there. Your Moakai is in the bottom lane, so he's not there. That means when the enemy shows up, you just try and hook them, you try and land the long-range stun from SYndra, one of the 2 things to then create a pick. If you fail to do that, you just back away from Baron. You don't try and take it because you're going to keep taking damage in there. And then Illaoi shows up, then Nautilus support shows up, and all these big tanks here and big bruisers will just destroy you in the pit.
I have heard that we don't get to look at it again, but Illaoi just does this, you know, and then it's all over.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think the thing that we have to note, too, is that initially we look at Misfits, they bait around the Baron, we expect them to set up a pick, and we're like, this is fine play, that's a mistake. But they did this 3 or 4 times consecutively, and that's when we have to draw the real line, is it's no longer them trying to find a pick, it's them not knowing what to do very clearly.
And praise where praise is due. Flaxxish in the end did what he had to do in those fights. Knight came into his own, even 100%. Though he didn't do very well in lane, or initially, they got back in the game.
Yeah, I think Knight actually did his job here. I'm not expecting him to win this lane, and he just outscaled. He got to late game, he had the gunblade as well on Corki, something we see very often. Really good. When things also flash into you, which happened quite a few times, people actually flashed into his range of exhaust and gunblade, and he just bursted either Hansama or PowerOfEvil. So I think he played teamfights extremely well, and Flaxxish, of course, on the Illaoi.
I think the whole team was pretty lined up once Misfits gave them an advantage exactly how they wanted to play the game. There were some hiccups in the early game, most notably that early play, that dive, where we did see the Flay come out, not respecting the Thresh and the Brush, but past the early game, once they got more into the mid-game, Giants did look reasonably comfortable overall.
Yeah, and for Misfits, I think you said it was going to be 2-1 in the end, and these are kind of the typical things.
I had to say it. I hope we were going to move on.
No, but what I wanted to illustrate is the fact that these are kind of the typical things we see from teams that are very hyped in Challenger, coming out and coming then into the LCS. These are things that you can't learn in scrims that much because you have to get that split-second decision-making and learn these situations over and over, or are you blaming the draft?
The thing is that, yes, they're a Challenger team, but there's so many veteran members on this lineup. If Alphari is the shot caller, right, very talented mechanical player, but if he's the one making these calls, it makes sense to me that they might not be quite as concise. He's not as used to the LCS stage. But if it's KaKAO, if it's IgNar, if it's PowerOfEvil, these guys have played a lot. They don't have an excuse here.
This was just a failure in execution of how to finish the mid-game. The draft was good. And I actually think Misfits should have won this game, but they didn't know what to do between 25 and 30 minutes, and that's why they didn't push lanes and set up Baron properly, and then you lose. And
there props to Giants for taking advantage of that opportunity and winning game 1. And next up is game 2 between Misfits and Giants. Don't touch that browser.
Down the bottom lane, it's IgNar that lands, and KaKAO's coming for support, leaps forward for first blood. The dredge line catches PowerOfEvil and he gets taken down. KaKAO jumps into a sacrificial position. Flaxxish is going to come in from behind. Knight has got caught up by the stun. Knight is in trouble, he's down. Alphari gets the kill credit. Giants are split up, but they've separated Hansama and IgNar. They're running towards the blue buff. PowerOfEvil is down. A little bit of trouble yet. CS Status connects on tonight. Special delivery is available, and you does not matter. KaKAO where he stands. The Nexus turrets are falling 1 and 2, and Giants upset the apple cart and take down